Ever wonder why that amazing woman you're dating suddenly seems to pull away? Why she ghosts your texts for hours, or laughs off something you know deep down bothered her? You try to analyze the vague plans and unanswered messages, killing yourself decoding what it all means. It's a classic dating puzzle, but let me tell you, as a psychologist who has sat across from countless clients wrestling with this very dynamic, there's a simple, painful truth hiding behind that cool facade. She cares. She cares so much it hurts. The game we play, the anatomy of the pretense. In the complex landscape of modern dating, there's a cultural expectation that being evasive and distant is the way to play it cool. We call her the chill girl, the one who doesn't require commitment, doesn't get intense, and certainly doesn't appear desperate or clingy. This performance, this delicate balancing act of appearing unbothered, is fundamentally about self-preservation. It is a defense mechanism built up brick by emotional brick to protect a sensitive core. The irony, as many women themselves confess, is that pretending not to care fails spectacularly. The moment a man acts like he doesn't care, whether through delay tactics like waiting 15 to 30 minutes to respond to a text or ignoring flirting, women assume he is genuinely disinterested or simply playing childish mind games, and they quickly move on to someone who appears to give a damn. When a woman puts on this indifferent mask, she is trying to trick the outside world. But more importantly, she's trying to trick herself. She wants to believe that she is stronger than the gravitational pull of love. It's easier to pretend you mean nothing to her than to admit you mean everything. But what is she actually feeling when she's staring blankly at her phone, refusing to text you back immediately? She's likely experiencing a torrent of anxiety, exhaustion, and hurt. She is replaying your comments over and over, trying to decode the truth, and generally finding this game exhausting. This emotional turmoil isn't just abstract. The pain from feeling rejected or hurt socially is strikingly similar to the neurological response of physical pain or trauma. When those feelings hit, they can feel like a punch to the gut or a knife in the heart. This deep-seated fear of vulnerability, the fear of being truly seen, known and heard for who she is what fuels the pretense. Vulnerability means letting another person see her inner world, sharing her deepest secrets, dreams, disappointments, fears, and traumas. It means taking an emotional risk. If she risks sharing her heart and you reject her, she knows she will be hurt. She might try to defensively tell her friends she's fine, avoiding eye contact, ashamed of being hurt. The blueprint of distance, attachment, and defense mechanisms to truly understand the internal struggle of the woman who pretends not to care. We have to look back at the core psychological frameworks that govern how she navigates close relationships. Attachment theory and defense mechanisms, DMs. The avoidant attacher, the master of the freeze-out, he. Woman displays an I don't care attitude. She may fall into the category of insecure attachment, particularly the dismissive avoidant style. This style originates when, in childhood, caregivers were perceived as repeatedly rejecting the child's need for closeness and affection, often acting emotionally distant and discouraging outward emotional expression. As an adult, the avoidant attacher prioritizes independence, self-sufficiency, and is profoundly uncomfortable with emotional closeness and intimacy. On the surface, she might seem confident, outgoing, and highly successful, often pouring immense energy into her career rather than focusing on deep relationships. When a relationship begins to evolve into something meaningful, this attachment system is activated, and she typically pulls back or closes herself off. The I don't care mask is her survival strategy. She erects personal walls and boundaries to prevent true intimacy from developing. She might pull away if you push for closeness or ask her to open up emotionally. You'll notice signs like difficulty trusting and relying on others, maintaining boundaries, even in healthy relationships, seeming distant, aloof, or cold, becoming cold or distant for no clear reason when she feels things getting serious. If you try to get too emotionally close, she withdraws or uses an avoidant coping strategy. This avoidance functions to minimize affect and maintain distance. In fact, she might even look for petty reasons to end the relationship, focusing on an annoying habit or an inconsequential action just to justify pulling the plug before she gets truly vulnerable. This fierce need for independence, stemming from early perceived rejection, makes her less willing to depend on a partner and highly motivated to protect her personal space. The anxious attacher, the high-stakes player. On the other side of insecurity is the anxious, preoccupied style. Paradoxically, the anxious woman often also pretends not to care, but for entirely different reasons. She desperately seeks intimacy, but her self-perception is often one of low self-worth, making her terrified of being abandoned or unloved. When she feels highly attracted to someone, the rush of intense emotion can actually cause her to become internally self-conscious and awkward. Her nervous system goes into fight-or-flight mode, causing her heart to race and her pulse to pound. Her pretense is driven by a fear that showing her true feelings, her need for intimacy, will scare the partner away. The anxious woman is characterized by feeling anxiety and lack of security in relationships. She tends to act clumsy, stutter, mumble, or fidget when around the person she likes. Cope by blaming herself when the relationship is threatened. Continuously seek reassurance and acceptance from her partner. Become highly sensitive and prone to jealousy. This internal conflict manifests as the dreaded hot and cold behavior. One moment she's messaging you all day, showing intense interest, and the next she disappears or completely ignores you. Psychologically, this is often because she likes you immensely, but she is simultaneously scared of the depth of her feelings and unsure of what she wants, leading her to create distance after she feels she has slipped up and shown too much emotion. She fears that if she reveals her true needs, she will be rejected. So she uses self-blame and emotional regulation strategies, like pretending indifference, to manage the distress. In essence, the pretense of indifference is a protective tactic used by both insecure attachment styles. For the avoidant, it prevents closeness. For the anxious, it protects against the perceived shame of needing someone else. The silent burden, the heavy cost of emotional labor. The pretense of not caring extends far beyond the initial dating phase.
In long-term, intimate relationships, women often adopt a quiet,
continuous performance known as emotional labor. Emotional labor is the act of suppressing or modifying one's genuine feelings to enhance the emotional well-being of the partner or to conform to societal expectations. Due to persistent patriarchal structures and gendered social roles, women are disproportionately assigned communal traits, including the propensity to engage in this labor. Society views actions involving care and emotional management as instinctive and natural manifestations of female affection. This continuous emotional performance, caring for a partner when stressed or unwell, comforting them, managing conflict resolution through indirect or coded communication, creates a significant psychological drain. Studies show that an unequal division of emotional labor is strongly associated with higher levels of psychological distress, decreased levels of love, and heightening relationship conflict for women. The deepest pretense, sexual emotional labor. Perhaps the most potent and overlooked form of this pretense occurs in the bedroom, what we term sexual emotional labor, SEL. This is where a woman actively neglects her own feelings or pleasure experiences in service of promoting her partner's well-being. This role often stems from traditional female sexual scripts that cast women as passive, submissive, and primarily focused on pleasing the male partner, the pleasure givers. The core findings regarding this specific type of emotional labor reveal exactly what women are: suppressing when they pretend to be satisfied or indifferent, faking orgasm, the ultimate performance. This is the most obvious manifestation of SEL, with prevalence rates exceeding 50% across many studies. While some women fake for self-focused reasons, the most common motivations are partner-focused, to reassure her partner of his sexual competence, prevent him from feeling inadequate, or because she believes female orgasms are necessary for his satisfaction. She is performing satisfaction to manage his ego and emotion. 2. Performing desire, suppressing disinterest. This involves engaging in sex or specific sexual behaviors despite genuinely lacking the wish or mood to do so. The woman complies to unwanted sex, whether in casual encounters or committed relationships, primarily to satisfy her partner's needs, promote intimacy, or avoid relationship tension and conflict. She often internalizes the belief that the male partner has a need for sex, leading her to exaggerate her own desire, seeing it as an obligation to maintain the relationship, tolerating discomfort or pain, the physical cost. Many women tolerate or suppress physical pain and discomfort during sex to avoid making their partner uncomfortable. They avoid discussing it because they are prioritizing their partner's enjoyment or fear, disrupting the sexual activity. When nearly 30% of women in one national U.S. study reported painful sexual experiences, and many endure it in silence, the emotional cost is immense. This suppression leads to a disconnect from their own bodies and needs. Partner-referenced sexual satisfaction, externalizing self-worth. A significant number of women gauge their own sexual satisfaction by focusing primarily on their partner's pleasure. They internalize the communal characteristics associated with femininity, placing their own desires secondary to those of their partner. This practice, which entails an element of self-neglect, perfectly encapsulates the essence of emotional labor. The consequence of this pervasive sexual emotional labor is that it severely impacts women's sexual agency, her ability to assert her needs and desires. Women who engage in high levels of SEL experience significantly lower sexual pleasure and distress, contributing directly to the persistent pleasure gap in heterosexual relationships. In short, when she pretends not to care in the bedroom, she is sacrificing her true self and her deepest satisfaction. Dropping the mask, the power of true vulnerability, whether she is pulling away in a new relationship due to avoidance, or quietly sacrificing her pleasure in a long-term marriage through emotional labor. The root issue is the avoidance of vulnerability. The core message we must embrace is that vulnerability is not weakness. It is strength. For those who are tired of playing the game, the path to authentic connection, the antidote to the pretense, requires courageous self-disclosure and emotional regulation. Acknowledge the pain. First, recognize that the pain of emotional injury is real. You can't choose whether or not you get hurt. You can only control how you respond. Trying to pretend you don't care will never truly keep you safe. Challenge the game. The cycle of playing cool and waiting anxiously is exhausting. You deserve someone ready for your big heart, not someone who only wants you when you pretend you don't want them. Honesty and direct communication are actually the best tools for attraction. As one expert noted, if you act like you don't care, people will assume you don't, and they will move on to someone who does. Embrace mature defense mechanisms. In coping with relationship threats and emotional pressure, the goal should be to shift away from destructive patterns like avoidance or self-blame. Learning constructive cognitive emotion regulation, CER, strategies allows you to adjust your emotions and cope healthily. Mature defense mechanisms can minimize anxiety and allow feelings to be consciously experienced, leading to greater psychological well-being. Practice intentional vulnerability. True vulnerability means sharing your innermost thoughts and feelings, your needs, desires, and expectations, with the intention of connecting, without worrying about the consequence. This practice builds trust, intimacy, and a sense of belongingness. It requires creating an environment of safety and trust with your partner, focusing on the feelings being shared rather than the type of information. As one source beautifully puts it, vulnerability is the freedom to say, "I don't care what you think of me. This is who I really am, and I won't be anyone else." The decision to stop pretending that you don't care means quitting the game and being your genuine self. It is a powerful affirmation of self-worth, recognizing that you are worthy of a partner who accepts you, flaws and all. In the end, the pain of the pretense is often greater than the pain of honest rejection. If she is performing indifference, she is likely suffering a complex emotional burden rooted in deep insecurity and learned gendered labor. The journey towards a fulfilling connection requires the courage to shed the mask of the chill girl and embrace the fierce, honest strength of vulnerability.